It's Podrzebiepodcast, the comic book nerdcast that dares to ask, what? Me worry?
Let's visit our next department, the Who Lampoons the Lampoonists department.
That's right, we're talking National Lampoon.
It's the only poon I'm interested in.
You heard it here first, folks. So how do you feel about National Lampoon? Do you have any history with it?
I'm mostly ignorant about it. I do have like a very small history with it, and that is, at Mo and Di's house.
Oh, another chiseler, eh?
Digging through their stuff, like looking for Mad magazines and finding some old National Lampoons, opening it up, seeing the naked breasts of a woman, and just like closing it and putting it down and being like, I've gone too far. I need to go back to the hide-a-bed that I'm supposed to be asleep in.
For me, National Lampoon was always the thing that old guys would tell me about when I told them when I was a kid that I read Mad Magazine. I'd be like, oh yeah, I love Mad Magazine. Like, oh, you love Mad Magazine? You should check out National Lampoon. But even though it was on sale at the time, it wasn't anywhere where I was getting mad, I don't think. I think it was probably up top with the pornos, you know?
Yeah.
And they didn't have that at the grocery store where I mostly got my mad. So I never encountered one. I did know the cover, like the famous cover with Cheese Face the dog, buy this issue or we'll kill this dog. That had sort of like seeped through into the public consciousness. Yeah, that was about it. And by the time I was old enough to read it, it pretty much was off the shelf then, because I think it ended in like 97 or 98. And so I never encountered it.
What's funny is that my truest exposure to National Lampoon is as a movie production house.
Yeah.
Animal House. That's how I knew National Lampoon.
Yeah, I was really into the Vacation trilogy when I was a kid, and Loaded Weapon 1. I really love that movie. Not that I haven't seen it since. It's probably not very good. We should watch that for this show. It's like a Mad Magazine spoof.
Wait a second. I laughed. Are you talking about the one with... What am I thinking? Loaded Weapon.
I think it's Emilio Estevez or something.
Oh my gosh. I remember this now. And then there was Loaded Weapon Part 2.
No, you're thinking about Hot Shots, right?
Hot Shots Part 2. Yeah.
Loaded Weapon was like that, but for... what was the movie that it was parodying?
Lethal Weapon.
Lethal Weapon, yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
so it's called Loaded Weapon 1, and they just did 1. But it was kind of the same sort of thing. I loved all those, like, goofy spoof movies when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And then, what was it? They did Class Trip or something. I think when they did that, then I was like, oh, this is no longer a studio. This is, like, just a brand that people can license.
Yeah.
And after that, it's all just, like, sex comedies that aren't very good.
Yeah.
At least I haven't found any that were good.
So, in 1971, the issue says October. So that means, like, I don't know, what month is before October? August or September. This came out.
Mine says November 71.
The cover of the actual issue of National Lampoon says October. And then inside that issue, they did the Mad Lampooning. And on the Mad cover, it's number 147, November 1971.
That's what I was looking at. Sorry, I jumped the gun there. We have different copies of this. I've got National Lampoon Comics, which is like a collection of just comics from there, and it's got the whole parody, except the last page is in black and white. I think yours is in color. I think your fold-in is in color.
Yes, it is, and it's beautiful. So they did like, I guess Mad Magazine at the time, would have been the biggest humor magazine. I think I have a chart with the numbers, but this is at Mad's peak that they're doing this send-up of them. And
it's also at National Lampoon's peak. They're both, like, sort of approaching the highest point, if not, like, just passing it.
Yeah. So, that's pretty awesome that they're, like, taking that shot, and it's like...
Well, what's funny is that, like, it says number 147, November 1971. Yes. Number 146 of actual Mad was October of 1971. So it's like, they're like, here's the next issue, like seemingly in between issues,
Yeah, that's funny.
That's kind of exciting. Like, it's hard to think of that. Like, nowadays it's like Mad and like magazines. It's like, it seems like turnover is so long. You can't be like up to date, but it's like right there. It's just like, they have to just make fun of each other from one issue to the next.
In the show The Wire, there's that guy who's like very scary. I forget his name, but he has that quote where he's like, "If you come at the king, you best not miss." And I think he may have been quoting like Shakespeare, but he was saying it in an urban vernacular. And hey, they don't miss on this lampoon of Mad Magazine.
Well, I think there's a reason for that. So a lot of the other humor magazines that went after Mad, they all came across as kind of pathetic, I think.
Yeah.
Specifically, like Crazy did a really big one that I think we're going to look at some point in the future, where it's actually like a narrative with like Alfred E. Newman and the old folks home. It goes on for 2 issues. But here's the thing is National Lampoon isn't a Mad Magazine knockoff.
Yeah.
It's an offshoot of the Harvard Lampoon, which is more like Punch or Puck, right? It goes back to the 19th century. So it's a different thing. And so they don't have to pretend that like they're doing this out of like one side of their mouth, but at the other side, they're doing all the same stuff. It's like, because they actually are, you know, not the establishment humor magazine, and they're not trying to be the establishment humor magazine.
Yeah. Well, and I am curious about this because like at National Lampoon, they did kind of what Mad started off as a magazine, right? Where it was a magazine format.
Yeah.
And they held on to, there's like articles and cartoons or comics and all sorts of things. Unlike what Mad eventually turned into, where it's like its own sort of like weird new invention.
But Mad was what it is pretty much at that point, I think.
Yeah. But I'm just saying it's like, it's interesting because like what Kurtzman, when he moved into the magazine format, like that's what National Lampoon stayed as, basically. Like an actual humor magazine with articles and parodies and all of that stuff.
And it's kind of like somewhere between Mad and like Help, but like with a like sort of 70s edge to it, you know. It's a little bit more like, it's more risque, it's more adult. It has nudity.
Yeah.
So here they're taking down Mad Magazine, which is something that like they obviously have a lot of love for, but also a lot of disdain for at the same time. And on the cover, you've got a sad Alfred E. Newman. And it just says, what? Me funny? And it's drawn by John Romita.
Dude, it's so cool that they had John Romita draw it. As a comics fan, he's a great Marvel artist, famous for like Spider-Man. I don't know what the medium is, like colored pencil or something. Who cares? But it's such a great illustration of Alfred E. Newman. Like, it's so close to Norman Mingo's, but with the sadness in his eyes, it's like, I don't know, just a very nice touch.
It's very sad. You know, it almost doesn't look like him. Like, it looks exactly like him if he was that genuinely sad. But it's hard to imagine. Like, even when you've seen him with other kind of facial expressions, you know, there's always a touch of, like, irony on his face. And, like, this is just, like, crisis levels of depression.
Yeah, you just saw him walking out of a funeral home.
Yeah, he's ready to go
shoot
himself in the head, basically.
He just buried Moxie Kazanovsky. Then the R price, they do the R price gag. R price 40 cents. You get what you pay for.
Instead of cheap. They also included like the IND between like the M and the A. It's the exact logo.
Yeah.
The audacity of them, really. Like they didn't call it like sad or mud or one of the other ones. You know, it's Mad. Here's the logo. Here's Alfred E. Newman.
Yeah.
You know, come at us, bro.
And they got it all. Like you open it up and you have a nice like scenes we'd like to see, a common Mad cartoon right across from the exact contents page, vital features and all.
Oh yeah, it actually looks like you're reading Mad.
Dude, I just realized this, and they got on this inside
Joe
cover,
Orlando
to do it.
Who like worked for Mad like from like 57 to like 69, and then this is in 71. He's like at National Lampoon doing this.
Oh, that is so awesome.
I mean, that's not like getting like Al Jaffe or something, but it is a bit low-key betrayal.
That's surprising to see, for sure.
And you like to think like ultimately Mad would have a good attitude about it, but it is like, it's harsh.
Yeah.
Well, first off, so you've got that scenes we'd like to see. It's just a guy and he's like bringing in ideas to the Mad office. And he's just listing them off, you know, like, you know, they're really tall when, they know you're really tall when, you know, they're really tall when, and he's just got like all these like just cookie cutter Mad articles.
Here's a twist. They know you're really tall if.
And then in the last panel, you got the executive at Mad like booting the humorist out the door, and he says, "This is just more of the same old crap we've been turning out for years, and we're not going to do it anymore. Now get lost." And, you know, this is actually kind of confusing because it's like the whole thing they're saying is this is exactly what Mad does, is just churn out the same stuff over and over again. That's their sort of attitude towards it. But here you have the executives Mad saying, we're not going to do that anymore. And, you know, to me, in this case, like the humorist represents Mad and National Lampoon is represented by Mad in this. Yeah. And they're saying like, we're not going to put up with your bullshit anymore. Like, you've got to try harder. Because that's the thing, when you see other parodies of Mad, unless it's like Crazy or Cracked or something that's directly in competition, most of these things are very reverent for Mad. And people are like very careful to like say anything bad about it. You know, I don't think that's good for anybody.
No, it's not. There are a few nice gems tucked away in the table of contents. One of them being Don Martin Department. It's the first one. These are all different cartoons. One morning, page 7. Later in the day, 14. That evening, 19. The next day, 24. Later on in the week, 34. Early the next month, 38. Like what a nice little send up of that. I don't know. That was like,
that's like a real the comedy roast of Don Martin right there. You know, there's another good one. It only Kurtz when I laugh department. Who is Harvey Kurtzman and why is he saying all those terrible things about me? Mad movie satire. And it's like, I did take a look. I wanted to see if I could find out what Harvey was saying about Mad at the time.
Yeah.
Because I think that's the general consensus is like, especially at that time, like all of these humorists, and not just in National Lampoon, but in like everything, anyone doing comedy, they all loved tales calculated to drive you mad, humor in a jugular vein. That's what they're always referencing, even in like parodies and Crazy, where they're like trying to take down Alfred E. Newman and Sylvester P. Smythe. It's like they've just got like this chicken fat taken from those comics just in the background, like exactly as they are. And they're obviously doing it with love. They're not doing it to parody it in any way, nor would any kid recognize it at that point in the 70s, you know, really. But like all of these old guys, or then regular age guys, I don't know what's the age between old, middle guys.
Middle age.
I don't even know if they're middle.
What
middle
we are.
Younger than us, but older than young.
Okay.
They all love that stuff, and they're all celebrating stuff. And in this, they do that, even while they're taking down the magazine. And I think that's a big part of the whole thing, is to say, like, look, you were mad by Harvey Kurtzman, and now you're this.
Yeah.
And it's toothless. Yeah, and then they've also got Spiro Agnew department. Pictures of Spiro Agnew, only he's wearing a propeller beanie. And it's like, that's even a Simpsons joke when they're reading the Mad Super Special.
Boy, they're really socking it to that Spiro Agnew guy again. He must work there or something.
Even then.
Should we move on to the letters department?
Yeah. So it just looks like the letters department.
It's exactly the same. Yeah. They even have the little Mad Mail box with the bomb in it.
Yeah. There's a section on movie satires. And it just goes through a bunch of them, and it's like letters about each one. And it's just like, kudos on your nifty spoof, Cleopasta. And then there's many thanks for your jazzy takeoff, the pride in the pasta. And then there's Ingmar Bergman's idiotic film, The Seventh Pasta. And Moby Pasta, and Marjorie Pasta. And there's a bunch of them, and they're by Terry Roberts, and Robert Terry, and Bob Robertson, and Rob Terryson, and Terry Robertson, and Bert Roberty. And they're all from Wilmington, Delaware. And then there's a letter by Al Feldstein. It says, congratulations on that great series of letters, Saul. They read just fine, and I especially like the one about the kid who thought 2001 A Space Pasta was stupid. It kind of gives the thing credibility.
Wait, are they saying...
Yeah, they're saying the letters are fake.
Dude!
How does that make you feel? You never considered that possibility, did you?
No, I didn't. Not at all. That makes me feel... I hope that's not true.
They're certainly not all fake, because...
They can't all be fake.
I know people who claim to have had their letters in Mad.
Well, I've seen people, like Shane Buckley. He had a letter published, and I was like flipping through an issue, and I saw Shane Buckley.
Maybe they wrote the letter and then got him in on it.
Ooh, that's an accusation.
Yeah.
There's one of these letters I want to read out, which is, It's the second from the top in the left-hand column. And it says, Heil Mad, you really did in old Adolf. It's bound to cost you some German readers, but I guess that's the price of being gutsy. Keep those right-on spoofs coming. Art Deco from Bangor, Maine.
Well, the one right before that started out with like, at last someone had the spunk to portray Hitler for what he was, a rotten, cold-blooded murderer.
Norm Macdonald had an ongoing joke where he would be like, man, this Hitler guy, he sounds like a real jerk.
Oh my god. Well, they got another one where it's like, Mothballs was the funniest article I ever read in Mad. I especially like the part about how they smell so funny and break into lots of little pieces when you drop them on the floor. And then I think we better move on. But the last letter, I think we better read this. Can you read the last letter?
Satisfied readers. All of the unicellular flagellates in my petri dish read your magazine. Now, we may be pretty low down in the great chain of being, but we think it's great. Bifistula ciliati, Sandham Laboratories, Travis, Oklahoma. Why did you have me read that?
Well, because there's a picture of Bifistula there with his friends reading the latest issue of Mad Magazine at the bottom.
Oh.
And that is the latest issue of Mad Magazine. That is issue number 170. That this one is from the month before. That this one is claiming to be after.
I didn't notice that. That's amazing.
Yeah. Oh, well, I didn't notice it first. I noticed the cover and I was like, hey, that's a real issue. And then when I noticed the number and I looked it up on Doug Guilford's Mad cover site.
How is it even possible, though, if these are like, how quickly is the turnaround at a printer?
I don't know. Maybe they got the cover in advance. Maybe they had an inside person working on the job.
Oh, dude.
Maybe Joe Orlando's key still worked.
Dude, I imagine they must have had something like that.
So they had this out on the stands at the same time that issue was out.
Yeah.
And they made it look like the following issue.
Yeah. All right. How about this? Citizen Gaines.
This is by John Boney, or Boney, John Boney.
Mhm.
I like John Boney. Sounds
like
like a
Bonnie.
Zamboni.
Yeah.
You like Bonnie? But it sounds
I
like
like
a Zamboni. Maybe he drives a Zamboni. I mean, it's his day job. You probably don't have as many Zamboni drivers in America, though.
Yeah, but I'm from Minnesota, so we have quite a few.
So you have quite a few. There you go. So
Yeah. Listen, I don't think you appreciate how much culturally Minnesota and Canada share.
Well, I mean, you have to pick a province. Not all the provinces share.
They're
that
all
much.
the same. You guys are all the same.
So Citizen Gaines. This is like the Mort Drucker parody. I love Ernie's signature. He's like nailed it.
So cool.
This is the bulk of the whatever you call this, like the article, the Mad article.
Oh, I should say this. Like you said, Ernie nailed the signature of like mimicking Mort Drucker's
Exactly.
signature.
Yeah.
He's got those like the vertical lines for the M that Mort used, but turned so they'd be an E. It's really a neat take on it.
This is a fantastic lampoon of Mort Drucker. I can't think of a better one.
Well, I don't know that I've seen very many, so I think by virtue of it being the one I've seen, it is certainly the best.
But like, on first glance, you might mistake this for like an actual Mort Drucker, like you might think it was, is that a really early one or something?
You know what? It actually, like, parts of it remind me more of, and I think it's like that first panel where it's like the close up on Bill's mouth, and he's saying,
Yeah.
Satire. Reminds me of Paul Coker.
Yeah, I could see that.
Anyway, did you read this thing?
I did, yeah. And it's
All
a
right.
parody of Citizen Kane, using Bill Gaines. So the premise is Bill Gaines died, and his last words were satire.
Satire.
This guy, he's going around and trying to figure out what he meant. And he talks to all these sort of like historical figures of Mad's history, and they constantly have these flashbacks to his life.
Yeah. Oh, it's so cool. Like, looking through this, like, you can recognize, like, there's Wally Wood, there's Harvey Kurtzman. That's it. Those
Harvey
are the two.
Kurtzman's a big one, I would say.
Yeah, he's showing up in a lot of panels. He seems to be our, like, Jiminy Cricket or some shit.
Well, it does kind of tell the story a little bit of the history of Mad, because it's like Gaines comes to Harvey and like Gaines sort of has a vision for Mad, and then Harvey's visions for Mad is much more commendable. So it's like Gaines has this vision for Mad, a declaration of principle. 1, jokes. 2, funny. 3, more funny. 4, haha. 5, always leave him laughing. 6, question mark. And so that's where he starts, right? And the idea is that he becomes more corrupt as he goes along. But Harvey's principles are 1, Mad will not pander to the lowest common denominator to sell magazines. Mad will provide first-rate humor. No subject is too sacred for Mad. Mad will explode the pretensions of our society until it hurts. Mad will be...
Organic? No,
original. Sorry, it's hard to
Original.
read on my thing.
Yeah.
'cause
No, it's
so
hard to
small.
read in a real copy of it too.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Mad will be original, impudent, timely, and daring. Mad will not accept advertising nor merchandise schlock. And then it's signed H. Kurtzman.
Signed H. Kurtzman for William Gaines.
Yeah. It works. Mad's a success. And then Gaines has a new principle. He takes Harvey's declaration and he just like edits it. So now it says, just number 1, the lowest common denominator sells magazines. Mad will provide first-rate subscription service. Most subjects are too scary for Mad. Mad will explode pretensions of our society unless it hurts sales. Mad will apparently be original, impudent, timely, and daring. Mad will not accept advertising, merchandise, or schlock. And they says 1 principle out of 6 ain't bad.
Yeah.
And then there's a line that we'll come back to where Harvey says, but what about humor in a jugular vein? And to which Gaines says, it'll be humor in a juvenile vein. And then Harvey says, I quit. I'm playing my big Trump. My big Trump.
That's funny. Trump being the mega project that Harvey went on to produce for what's his face? Beautiful
For Hugh
man.
Hefner at Playboy.
Hugh
and then
Hefner, yeah.
As we've said in like, I think 3 episodes, half of our episodes.
Listen, every episode is somebody's first episode.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, just in case.
But yeah, he did 2 issues in whatever, the late 50s. Then the magazine folded. But they're amazing. And you can get them in a great collection that didn't sell very well because it came out the same year that Trump was elected.
Yeah.
People didn't want a book that said Trump on the cover.
Real briefly, it's only 1 page of it, but it's another thing that they do a send-up of, which was so common in Mad. It was like seemingly every issue at this time, and that was to do a primer. You know, the Mad primer for, insurance salesmen. They did like awesome ones, like monster primers, where they got to like do I think it was Wally Wood did the art for it, and it was amazing, and they did all like them big monsters, but they were doing it so much that it was just boring. And
I think it faded out by the time I was reading it, because I did see the occasional primer, but I don't feel like it was every issue.
I mean, in the 60s it was very nearly every issue. It was oppressive how often it was.
Was it Frank Jacobs writing those?
No, it would rotate, because it looks like it's poetic or there's like some rhyme structure, but it's like that a take on those things like see Jane,
Yeah.
run Jane, run, with a lot of repetition and like very simple premises.
I did not read it like that. I didn't clue in that's what it meant by primer. It was like a kid's reading book.
Yeah. And then
I don't even think I knew that when I was a kid.
No, you didn't.
You just gave context to this whole thing. I thought it was just like a bad poem.
No, yeah, it was all based on the books that kids would read in school to learn about stuff in primary school.
Interesting. Yeah, I had those when I was a kid. I just never thought of it after grade 1 when I didn't need them anymore.
Well, and the great thing is in this chapter 3, it says the illustration is just a man beating a dead horse, which is very fitting for that one.
Yeah. Then we have the Spy versus Spy parody, which I think this is probably the 2 weakest pages in the whole thing. I don't think they do a great job of quite capturing Proeus. Oh, can you translate the Morse code for us really quick?
Oh, that's a good idea. Okay, here, let me go to Morse code translation.
Well, he does that. I'll just say that basically it's like the spies are pulling a gun on each other and then they work together to shoot at this tree, and out of it falls like a spy body, but it's got that like famous Che Guevara head on it. Which I don't know. I mean, that could be a pretty good joke, but it doesn't look like Spy versus Spy to me. It looks too goofy.
Oh my god.
Can we not say this on the air?
Hold on, I gotta figure out. No. All right, wait. Dot, and then they did Morse code, and one of the words is Spanish. So I do have to look up what that word is. So it says, so Antonio Prohias famously would sign by Prohias in Morse code. That's his signature for Spy versus Spy. Well, I mean, he had an actual signature too, but that was marked on all of the comics. And the message is, fuck all gusanos. And gusano literally is a word, but it's a pejorative term used to refer to Cubans who fled Cuba following the rise of Fidel Castro after the Cuban Revolution, which
it's like Proas.
Exactly. They're coming pretty. The comic, like you were saying, is like they kind of missed the mark on it. The real satire is the signature right
Wow. That's harsh.
there. That is pretty harsh. Yeah.
There you go. I wonder how he felt about that. Maybe he
Yeah,
thought it was funny, you know?
Maybe.
Because it is funny that you have to translate it. It's not like they just wrote it.
Yeah.
Like they wrote it for him. So that's kind of flattering, I guess.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, and yeah, like the way was that issue number 61, the way they introduced Prohias is like he was this political guy and he fled from Cuba to escape the communist regime. Like for a couple issues, I think they had that little intro kind of hyping it up, and fuck all gusanos. That's amazing. All right.
Well, yeah, that's not very tasteful. Then you've got throwing up absurd department. And it's, you've really outgrown Mad when. They're all pretty boilerplate, you know. It's like you start going to movies they don't do spoofs of. You learn swear words, basically. But it looks great.
Yeah, it does.
And then you've got the Berg shit department. This has got to be your favorite part of this, I got to imagine. Finally, someone takes Dave Berg down a peg.
Dude. Like,
no one wants to say anything bad about Dave Berg. He's such a revered, beloved, celebrated cartoonist the world over. And here you've got like this very provocative magazine willing to go there.
It's amazing, dude, how little criticism exists of Dave Berg.
I think it's generally most people don't like Dave Berg that much.
Anytime I've said that I don't like lighter side of, people are like, nah, man, that's great. That's first thing I turn to.
No, people are just picking on you. They're picking on you. That's what it is.
Maybe you know what? Like my viewers, it does seem like lately they really do like to pick on me.
Well, because your disdain for Dave Berg is like renown.
Yeah, it's not just that. Okay. I
enjoy the lighter side, I think, overall, and I think Dave Berg really had a good gimmick, so I like it. But it's also funny to see it taken down a peg, and I get why people don't like it.
Yeah, I mean, I can't tell really how sincere you're being when you say that.
Well, I mean, I always read it. It was the last thing I would read.
I know, but that says a lot.
I would enjoy it. Well, I mean, because it doesn't draw you in when you first see it, but just because, something is not superficially entertaining doesn't mean that it doesn't have a deeper resonance,
I know, but like you're like the way I wish you could see how you're smiling when you say this, because it makes it really, really hard to take what you're saying sincerely.
Well, I have some sort of condition where people don't take me seriously.
All right. Well, this is like we have to read the middle one out beat for beat, because this one is like, I think it's amazing. Do you want to play Dave Berg or the little boy?
I'll play Dave Berg.
Perfect. All right. Package for Mr. Dave Berg. Say, you aren't the same Dave Berg who draws for Mad Magazine, are you?
That's me, young man.
Oh, no kidding. You're the guy who does the lighter side thing?
That's right, youngster.
Hey, you're putting me on. You really write all that stuff about babysitters and blind dates and drive-in movies?
Yes, I do, son.
Boy, are you an asshole.
I'm sure you know the story, around that? Like that follows that?
Yeah.
You want to give it to us?
All right, well, I think it was Mark Evanier blog. He was a colorist.
Is it Evanier? I say Evanier. Or
I don't know.
Avenir?
I'm not. You have that streak of French in you.
Yeah.
That I do.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm real Neapolitan.
I know you're like ordering croissant and all that.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how to say it. I've only read his name. I've never heard it pronounced. But Mark Evanier wrote this story on this blog years and years ago. And this was sent to me by somebody. And there's this kind of like a trollish character, I think, that would be on the con circuit. And I think he may have been a retailer, right? Like they bring their stuff, they travel around the country. These people get to know the artists, they get to know one another. And he sees Dave Berg at, I think it was a San Diego Comic-Con. We'll just say that it was San Diego. And he sees him out to eat at like a Denny's. And so he goes up to him. And as the story goes, approaches him and says, "Hey, are you Dave Berg who draws for Mad Magazine?" And Dave Berg stops eating his meal and turns and he's like, "Why, that's me, young man." And then this guy keeps going with, he's like, "No kidding, you're the guy that does the lighter side of thing?" He goes, "That's right, youngster." And as Mark's telling this story, it's like he's in that voice of like, "Oh yes indeed I do." And so he keeps going with it. "Well, you're putting me on. You really do all that babysitters and drive-in movies and blind dates?" He goes, "Yes, son, I do." And this dude in this Perkins goes, "Boy, are you an asshole."
And of course, Dave Berg didn't know about this.
No. And according to this guy, like he went up thinking Dave Berg was familiar with this.
So he's probably thought, like, we're doing the routine. This is great. And then Dave Berg kicked his ass.
Oh my God. Honestly, I think that there's no way Dave Berg would remember this, at least word for word. He would probably remember the sting of it.
Yeah. And then the last one on here, you've got like a lunch pail construction worker with the American flag on his helmet and a hippie, and one saying "fascist pig, dupe of the military industrial complex," and then they're saying "commie queer, pawn of the Kremlin slave masters." And then Dave Berg comes along and he's like, "Can't we all just get along?" And then they both turn on him and they call him a wishy-washy liberal fink.
Start beating his ass.
Which is like, that's a good description of Dave Berg.
Yeah, golly. This next one, Horrifying Cliches, is like, it's double the fun, really. I mean, all of them are, because they get to make fun of like the artists and also the magazine. But this one in particular, like Horrifying Cliches, Paul Coker.
This looks great. This is a very good parody. I think this is Ralph Reese again.
It's like, it's very good. And he captured like the horrifying cliches really, really well. The best part of it, though, is the cliches, like insulting a reader's intelligence, following a formula, blowing a joke. Blowing a joke might be my favorite one.
I also like belaboring the obvious.
Yeah.
And avoiding a delicate subject. And then the last one is raising a dead issue. And then just, if you haven't seen Horrifying Cliches, it's just like Paul Coker would draw a monster, and so like they're being read literally to the monster. So it's like insulting a reader's intelligence. There's like a dumb looking monster and the guy's like, "Yeah." And the department is, "In your heart, you know it's trite department."
Yeah.
What's the actual department? Do you know?
Oh, for Horrifying
Cliches?
I don't.
Do you want to look it up?
Oh, yeah.
And then I'll just ask you again and we can pretend that you knew. Do you know what the real department is?
Yeah, right off the top of my head, too. It's Spooking from Pictures department.
The Spooking from Pictures department, or just Spooking from Pictures? No,
just Spooking. Why would you question me?
What?
Why would you question
I was just curious,
my memory?
No. So then we've got this Don Martin department. The department is Don Martin. Wasn't he that nutty guy who drew all those crazy cartoons that we thought were so sick in the 50s department? And I don't think this one is very good. I don't even think it looks very good in terms of like a Don Martin spoof.
Nah, I mean, it looks vaguely like Don Martin, you might say.
Yeah, you know who they're gesturing towards, but it's not the same as like the other ones where they've really like done a good job of emulating it, where it would like maybe fool a layman or something. Basically, the joke is like, sex is disgusting, but violence is fine, like in Mad. Although I have a question for you, because in mine, I don't know if you can see it. The N is all smudged, and you can see that it's a piece of paper cut out over top.
No.
And then there's also a smudge up here.
Nope, mine's smudgeless.
So I bet this was taken from the original art, and I bet you it was damaged, either corrected in that or damaged in between that and being reprinted here.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I was kind of curious about that. And then the next page is a fold-in, and yours is in color, right?
Yeah, it's beautiful too.
Is it on glossy paper?
It is. It's glossy paper.
That's the difference between yours and mine. Again, mine is in this National Lampoon Comics collection. My cover is in color, and so is the Inside Joe Orlando comic, but they're on newsprint.
Yeah. And so it says, the question is, just how did you make Mad into the hard-hitting satire magazine it is today? And you fold it in, and, well, the picture is just chock full of beautiful tales calculated to drive you mad characters and references. So you have Melvin, you have the Mole, you have Super Duper Man, you have Bat Boy, and
You have the two-headed guy that, like...
the 3-dimension.
The 3D parody. You've got
wonderful.
Ganifs, or Ganifs, or whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're all, like, drawn perfectly. Like, they look like they could be a collage.
No, it's done by Ralph Reese, and the reason I think is that a lot of these were characters drawn by Wally Wood, and Ralph Reese was an assistant to Wally Wood for many, many years. So
okay.
he's studied at the hand of the master.
I mean, he's doing some elder characters here, too. But
Yeah.
that's probably why most of the Wood ones look so good.
They all look they look just perfect. It's amazing.
Super Duper Man's the only one that really looks off at all. And I mean, but I guess he's got EC on there, so I think that's maybe not supposed to be directly Super Duper Man.
Yeah. And then you fold it in, and answering the question, how did you make Mad into the hard-hitting satire magazine it is today? Well, we just got rid of all that dumb kid stuff. It was easy. And then you're left with just Alfred E. Newman.
So I think there's a catalyst for this. And the top, because the Mad fold-ins, they've got like the question that remains when you fold it. But then in the middle, it says, the magazine developed through the years from a somewhat sophomoric, meat cleaver type of humor into what I regard as the sharp, satiric style it features today. And that's a quote from Frank Jacobs in the travel section of the New York Times, Sunday, July 11th, 1971. And so there's some irony here, because clearly, like, if we go back to the sort of the thing they mentioned earlier with what happened to humor in a jugular vein, it'll be humor in a juvenile vein.
Yeah.
You know, they're basically saying Mad became for kids, even though, like, the comic medium is seen as more for kids. It was a more mature publication than the magazine. And I think that's true. And I mean, they're probably including the first, like, whatever 4 magazine issues that Harvey did. But then, you know, they're thinking, like, after this, Humbug has come out, Trump has come out, Harvey's doing Help. And so I found that very interesting, that they had that quote right in there. And it's like, they're pointing a finger directly at Frank Jacobs and saying, like, you pretentious asshole.
Yeah.
You missed the point of the comic. Maybe you weren't around for the comic, you know? But, like, these people were. And they fucking revere it, you know?
Well, and I mean, they go on at the bottom. They just, like, read through it, and I mean, like, speaking in response to that quote that they pulled from Frank Jacobs. Well, there they all are, or were, when you were only a kid. We just reprinted them for old time's sake, just in case you forgot, ridiculous as that sounds. You must still have memories of all that incredible cast of characters. Super Duper Man, the Mole. Dumb kind of question to ask. No one could forget Elders or Wood stuff. It wasn't satire, though, was it? Just sophomoric humor. Humor's easy.
Yeah, and I think obviously they're saying that ironically.
Yeah.
Because you remember all of that stuff. Like, you remember, like, the little bit of chicken fat from that 3D article, you know, like that one comic, you know? It's like, here it is. You know instantly what that is, even like in black and white. Yours is in color, but,
Yeah.
you know, it's endearing. And Alfred's endearing too, but the magazine, it was the establishment humor magazine by that point, I guess. And, you know, it's great for kids, but it's great for adults in, like, a very mainstream kind of way, I think. Like, because you think you've got National Lampoon at that time, but you've also got, like, 1970, you've got the whole underground comics movement going on. You know, you've got all these innovations in pornography happening and film because of that, you know. It would definitely seem tame, I think, in the light of the culture that was happening around it.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, like sometimes I look at stuff that came out in the 70s and I'm like, Jesus Christ. Like, what a scary time to raise a child. the 1970s.
It got better once they got the lead out of the gas, I think.
Yeah. Jeez Louise.
Where do you think National Lampoon stands versus Mad today? Because like National Lampoon, I think in a way was above Mad.
Yeah, this is only going off of like, as somebody who's only read this issue of National Lampoon, it seems like they were overshadowed by like the movie part. I think most people, if you hear National Lampoon, certainly most millennials,
Yeah.
you're going to think about the movies. I would say even like Gen Xers would probably think about the movies too.
But that's a
rather
huge
than
mainstream success, right? Like in that sense. And Mad tried to piggyback on that, right? Mad tried to copy them.
Yeah, but nobody remembers that the magazine part of it. I think it's going to be like almost like Playboy, right? Like soon nobody's going to know what Playboy was. It'll be
It's a brand.
something that
It's just a brand now.
yeah, that's it. So
Is Mad on life support? Is that like the same? Is that any better? I mean, obviously Mad lasted, 20 years past National Lampoon as a like ongoing magazine.
I think Mad had like a longer and deeper impact in American culture than National Lampoon
Absolutely.
did. But
Absolutely.
National Lampoon made a pretty big splash.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a reason, like you were saying, that like all the old timers are like, check out National Lampoon. Like,
Yeah.
so
And I mean, I would have if it was available to me. I definitely would have read it. And I don't feel like there's not a lot of great collections. I wish there was. Like you can get like individual comics from others. So you can get like a Trotz and Bonnie collection or like a bunch of like the Cheech Wizard stuff that's in there.
Yeah.
It's like help, It's not like they're not really reprinting it in any kind of interesting way, sadly.
no. Yeah. All right. Next department.
You got it.
Thanks for watching, idiot. Hit like and subscribe. And hey, if you want more black podrzebiepodcast, check out the links in the show description.